Hey everybody, I'm live. I'm starting a little bit early, just to let folks get in and get settled. You're not going to miss anything or miss any content. Sheila, I see you there parked. Can you hear the feed? Give me a thumbs up. You're all good. Okay, cool. So the way it works is then I will I have a little button here that I can click you in when it's time to add you to the stream, and it's all good that way. So excellent. And folks will start to back in a few minutes, but we will get ourselves started and no one is going to miss anything. Shall I put your website up there on the stream? See my little scroll on the bottom. So we got that, and hopefully it'll scroll by enough in the next hour and change that all the information sinks in. So it's quasi-subliminal. All right, I see we got like 10 groups in. We're expecting over 35 groups, I think, which is pretty cool. So that's nice. And since a lot of them are going to be more than one person, we should have a good number of folks here today. So, and I'm happy about that. Once we get up to thumbs ups, thank you. Once we get up to a good number, I will get started. You can, even though I am not tuned into Facebook, I am on a program called StreamYard. So any of the comments that you post, whether they're on Facebook, my Facebook personal page, my business page, or the YouTube channel, will show up here on my screen. So you all can test that if you want. The other thing that, as some of you know, that I will do is you see my phone number there scrolling, and you all can text me. I would take phone calls, but I realize that there's a little bit of a time delay. So when you do get in and get settled, the folks want to just like drop in a comment in the chat, just so I see that you're here. Kind of a little unofficial roll call. Okay. And then we will get ourselves started. It's still 7:28, so if you're just walking in and hearing me talking, you're not missing anything. So, and I think everybody hears me fine, right? Good. Okay. If you, and I'll repeat this a few times, do not feel compelled to open all the lines. You can choose whatever one you want to open. You don't have to wait for me to tell you to start drinking. That's totally up to you. You're all grown-ups here, and I think. And David Litton is here. Hi, David. Welcome from the Nutmeg State. So yeah, so you open what you want. If there's only one or two of you, you might not want to open 3 bottles of wine. But if there's a small group of you, you might want to open all of them. That's totally up to you. I will go through the wines in sequence. The first one I will talk about will be the sparkling wine. The second will be the white/orange wine, and I'll explain what that is, and then we'll finish up with the red. If you don't want to, say you only want to open your red wine, you do not have to wait until the end. Hi, Trace. Hi, John. You don't have to wait until the very end to open it. You can start drinking that now if you want to. One thing I will mention once, and I'll mention another time, is I am doing a free virtual tasting tomorrow night with my friend and collaborator, Valerie Stivers. We've written a few columns for Food 52 and done some videos, and I'm her wine and spirits guide for her column in the Paris Review. It's called Eat Your Words. It's this really cool food and literature column, and we are doing a Instagram live on the Paris Review page tomorrow at 6 o'clock. So if you want, save some Nebbiolo, because that's one of the things we'll be talking about tomorrow night. If you go through all your Nebbiolo, you can go out and buy some more tomorrow. Kate, greetings from Portland. Cranes and Malloys, greetings from the Cranes and Malloys from Maplewood. We've got we got the country covered from sea to shining sea. My good friend Sheila Burkus is in Massachusetts. I think we got people spread out all over the place. It's pretty cool. Hello, Albertsons. Hello, Shama. This is cool. Everybody's checking in. That's nice. All right, good. We're gonna give it just a few more minutes so we get some folks here. I don't want anybody thinking that they missed out on anything. And for those of you who are regulars, you know it's my nature to repeat myself regularly, so no one's gonna miss anything. So there we go. Hello, Robin. All right. Oh, no, Robin's no longer there. So, hey, Gorings, how are you? Welcome back. Ah, there's Robin. Hi, Robin. You made it back. All right. Just going to wait just a couple more minutes, and then we'll get ourselves started. For those of you here in Essex County and the Northeast, hello, Wilkes is. You know that autumn finally has arrived, and hello again, Vivian. It was nice to see you yesterday. So it's gotten cold. The temperatures dropped, I guess, as they were supposed to. And Tracy, I'll get into that in 1 second, but really drink whatever you want to. You guys have good instincts about this stuff. And so it's actually gotten cold. It feels autumnal now, and but you know everyone should be nice and cozy at home or in front of a fire pit somewhere, and let's enjoy ourselves. Okay. Hi, Heltons. Hello, Jennifer. Debbie, you're looking forward to tonight? So am I. Hello, Eileen. Great. Okay, it looks like we got some folks here. Somebody is already texting me. Yep, I got a text from the Shmuels and Barrys. Hello, folks. How y'all doing? Good. So I think we're pretty good to go. So a little bit of housekeeping, and then I'm going to have Robin come in and talk a little bit about MEND. It's and thank you all for being here. Hello, Morris. And it's actually pretty cool because we really do have folks from all over the country here tonight, which is pretty exciting. Chris, you're welcome to not just say hi, but hang out for a bit if you want. Tonight's program. With my community partner this month is MEND, and I'm going to bring Robin Peacock in a moment to tell you all a little bit more about MEND. The theme is wines for Thanksgiving, and I'll explain as we go through why I picked the wines that we did. What you have there is a pink sparkling wine, which is what I'm going to start talking about. That's a Pet Nat wine. The second wine is a white wine. That's technically an orange wine, and the third wine is a red wine, a Nebbiolo. I'm going to go in that order. You can drink them in whatever order you want to. You don't feel compelled to open all of them at once, and or even any of them if you want to hold on to them. So the very cool thing is now, one of the things just to let you know too how I do these is that I kind of hand pick these wines for every event that we do, and this is we've done one every month now since May with a different community partner or focus. So I'm really kind of happy to keep doing these. So these aren't wines that you're going to go find in any old store. The wine is special ordered, which is why it didn't come in until last evening around 6 o'clock. All the wine finally came in. And I try to hold off as long as possible because, believe it or not, I know it's hard to believe, some people do procrastinate, wait till the last minute to make a decision. So I want to try to get as many people in as possible. And also with the cheese, you know, the great thing about Maplewood Wheelhouse is that all those cheese boxes that folks ordered are cut to order. It's not like going into ShopRite or Trader Joe's and picking up something out of the cooler. You know, they are really fantastic cheesemongers, cheese professionals representing a lot of great small artisanal producers. So they cut those orders really to order, those cheeses to order. So that's why everything sort of takes a while to put together, and it's kind of a rush at the end. So just to answer a couple of questions. The sparkling wine go into a champagne flute. Now that's an excellent question, and I'm going to pour mine into a regular wine glass, and I'm going to explain to you why I do that. But first, I want to bring Robin Peacock in, and Robin is going to, and Robin's the executive director of MEND. She really, I just talk about wine. She talks about really important stuff, and let me bring her on board. Hello, Robin.
Hi, Hank. How are you?
I need to turn my volume up a little bit, I think, so I can hear you. Gotcha, you there, right?
I am here. Can you hear me?
All right. Robin Peacock, explain to folks who you are, what MEND is. I think a lot of people already do, but let's hear it in your words, and I'm thrilled to partner with your organization this month.
Thanks, Hank. Thanks for doing this, and thanks to everyone who is joining us. I will say, Hank, you're much more organized. We're running around here trying to get the cheese ready and grab glasses. It's a little more chaotic in our household, but
my kids are older.
Glad to be here. It's like the reality of 2020. I just want to say for folks, I know there are a lot of folks that are already MEND supporters on the call. But I want to just give a quick overview of who we are and what we do. MEND stands for Meeting Essential Needs with Dignity. And we are a network of 20 food pantries located throughout Essex County, New Jersey. And our role is really to bring those pantry managers together regularly and to listen to what their needs are, and then to figure out ways, either working together with the pantry managers to problem solve, or if there are resources needed beyond what's available, then we kind of spring into action and work to get them what they need to make their jobs easier. And I can assure everyone, I'm sure this is no surprise, but you are needed now more than ever, because the numbers of people going to the pantries, the numbers of calls we're getting, it's really, it's quadrupled since COVID is what we're hearing from most of the pantries. And this time of year especially, there are a lot of people looking for extra support. So, one of the ways we help is really buying a lot of fresh and healthy food and matching fresh and healthy food resources, things, beyond the canned goods, which are also always appreciated, but trying to round out food that's available so that everyone has access to what they need. So that's really what we do in a nutshell. Happy to chat more about it, answer questions. I live in Maplewood, so all the Maplewood folks, if you see me around, just stop me on the street. I'm happy to talk your ear off all the time.
And Robin, just before we get into the fun social part of this, you mentioned that the numbers have quadrupled most likely this year once all the numbers come in. But that's not being quadrupled from some insignificant number to begin with, is it?
I lost you, Hank. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, that's okay. You mentioned how the numbers have quadrupled from last year, most likely, but it's not quadrupled from some low, insignificant number. How many people did MEND serve last year? That network of food pantries.
Yeah, so last year it was 160,000 people. It was about 130,000 the year before, 117 the year before. It's been steadily growing. And Essex County has long held the unfortunate title of the highest food insecurity rate in the state of New Jersey. So there's certainly, lots to be done, and we're working toward, working on some of that by connecting organizations and resources. So lots more to do, and certainly, current times have not helped solve the problem. So certainly a lot to be done.
Absolutely is. So thank you everyone for being here tonight, because the proceeds from tonight go to MEND. We're not just here to try to raise money, but we're here to try to raise some awareness too. And also I want to give a shout out to an incredibly important person with MEND in and drinking in from Oregon, and that is well, at least to me, the beloved Kate Cahill. So hi Kate, and Kate went out and found wine to participate. She messaged me not too long ago to say that she's ready to rock it. Kate has been a dear friend to the community and a friend to me, and has been one of my biggest supporters of the events that I do. So I'm glad that she can actually join us virtually. So hi Kate. All right, Robin, I'm going to get you off screen for a little bit. I'll bring you back in a little while, and I'm going to talk about the first line, okay?
Okay, I'm going to go eat some cheese and drink some wine.
Excellent. Okay, I'm back. Thanks, Robin. I'm going to bring my friend Sheila in shortly, but I want to talk about the first line and how we kind of came up with this theme. It's November, Wines for Thanksgiving. And over the past number of years, I've actually done an actual pre-Thanksgiving Thanksgiving dinner with my friend Chef Rich Krug, who had been at Orange Lawn and is now doing a great job at Bistro du Jour. And what we used to do is he would put together a Thanksgiving meal, and we would have as many as 6 or 8 different wines that would pair with the meal, and then you had the opportunity to buy them. And I think it's kind of a fun exercise to kind of try the wines out before you buy them. It's probably one of the questions I get asked most, what wines pair best with a Thanksgiving meal or a holiday meal. So what we try to do here today is expose you to a few of them and give you reasons why I chose them. And then in between these wines, Sheila Burkus, my good friend from college days, she was much younger than I was, she is the lead cooking instructor at the Milk Street Cooking School in Boston. You probably have heard of that. They have a few more hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram and Twitter than I do. And Sheila is actually going to come and talk to us about food-related stuff. Thanksgiving food tips, and also some side dishes. We're all going to talk about how Thanksgiving is going to be a bit different this year than other years. But by all means, if you haven't been tasting or drinking anything, please start. The first wine that we have on our roster here is Exilé, even though it does feel like we are all in Exilé these days sometimes. This is a Rosé Pétillant, as it says on the label, and it's from Elise and Bertrand Jouzet from the Loire Valley. I love sparkling wine any time of year. I know that there were some sparkling wine sales records that were hit on Saturday for some reason. I actually posted an article that in Washington, D.C. alone, a lot of the wine shops there said they sold more sparkling wine on Saturday than they did in the 2 previous New Year's Eves. So people were celebrating, I guess. But I love sparkling wine because of its versatility. It's great food wine. And I think a rosé sparkling wine is even better with a big meal. And here's my little sort of Martha moment or Food 52 moment, or whatever you want to call it, is they look really good on a holiday table. So, but I didn't want to get a full-blown champagne-style sparkling wine. So this is what is known as a Pétillant Naturel. Ancestral is another label for it. These wines have gotten to be very popular because they take a lot less time to make than traditional champagne-style sparkling wines. They're a little bit lower in fizz, which is why it has the bottle cap on it. And the way they make it is, it's the old style. It's the traditional, original style of making sparkling wine. When you make the wine, you add some more yeast to the bottle, and the sugars in the wine kind of eat that yeast up. Because it's capped, it keeps a little fizz. It captures the fizz in there. So you get a lighter sparkling wine, still a lot of taste, a lot of flavor. It is cloudy. It's not cloudy because of the weather. It's cloudy because it's an unfiltered wine. And again, that's just the style that it's made in. But I think it's pretty delicious, actually. And I love this wine. And this is a good example of a wine that if you're in New York and some of the better wine stores there, like Chambers Street and like Astor Wines that carry this, sell out of this wine pretty quickly. And the nice thing about being in the New Jersey market, when there's not as many eyes on some of these wines, is I can go out and get a number of cases of it, and you all can get to taste it here tonight. You notice I'm drinking out of a regular wine glass. If you own flutes, you can still use flutes. Flutes are kind of passé. I know. They're kind of gone the way of the old coupe glasses from those 1930s Fred Astaire's movies. But one of the reasons why a lot of people in the wine world, in the restaurant industry, and in wine bars are using a regular wine glass now is because you get more flavor out of that wine, a little bit easier to handle it, and for people like me, a little bit easier to bury my nose into that glass. So just to give you a little taste of that. This is made from Gamay, and Gamay is the grape that is in Beaujolais. And Beaujolais itself is a great food wine. For Thanksgiving, a lot of people go out and they buy Beaujolais Nouveaux because Beaujolais Nouveau hits always the US market or the world market 1 week before Thanksgiving. So because of marketing, a lot of people feel like, oh, this is great. Beaujolais Nouveau goes great with Thanksgiving. It's not a bad wine. It's actually a fun wine to drink. Nouveau wines have been around for centuries and may not have enough oomph, though, if you have a a bigger Thanksgiving meal. If you've got more spices, more starches, more of a heavy kind of a meal. So I like a red wine. It's got a little bit more backbone to it. So that's why I kind of stay away from the Beaujolais Nouveau. A regular Beaujolais, a Beaujolais Village, would actually be fantastic with any kind of meal. It's a great food wine. I think a couple years ago we did a Beaujolais dinner, and those wines really are pretty spectacular. So something to keep in mind. People like this wine, don't like this wine. What do y'all think? Good, good. You can make me some comments. You can shoot me a text. A little bit more housekeeping though before I bring Sheila on board. One, I do something every time I do one of these community tastings. I ask you to post some pictures. Post them on social media. On Instagram, I'm the Grapes Unwrapped. On Facebook, I'm Hank Zona, or the Grapes Unwrapped also is my business. If you take any pictures of you and your friends having a good time together here tonight and enjoying yourself, if you post them on social media, if you tag me, I put you in a little contest. And the next time I have one of these, I pull a name out of a bag for the people who posted last time, and you get to win some wine. In those comments, Lisa Wilkes, tell people it's true, I do it, right? Lisa Wilkes was a winner. So I have my bag, I have the people who posted last time. The winner is, hey, Laura Farrell. All right, Laura, we'll talk offline, and you're a winner. So you'll get some wine out of that. That's pretty cool. All right, excellent. So again, post something, tag me. I also want to thank Village Wine Shop on Maplewood Avenue. These guys are great. They allow me to put this together, to order wine through them. They provide fantastic service. And again, I mentioned Maplewood Wheelhouse. Maplewood Wheelhouse, the two people behind Maplewood Wheelhouse, Aaron Kurtz, the owner, and Lee Friend, who's now his kind of right-hand person, really have amazing chops when it comes to the cheese and to the restaurant world. And it's really great to have them right here in our community. The quality of the product that they bring in is fantastic. I also, just last Friday, Lee did a virtual fondue class, and I got to go in and talk a little bit, to be a guest for a change, which was kind of fun. So I'm glad folks like this. I like it too. Just enough fizz in there without being overwhelming, and I think that's really nice. So, okay, I'm going to bring my friend Sheila in. Sheila, let me get you added to the stream.
Hello.
Hello, Sheila.
How's everybody?
Sheila, before we get into anything, I'm going to say this. As I mentioned, I'm writing co-writing this column with my friend Valerie Stivers for Food 52, and I tried to get someone from Food 52 to see if they wanted to come in and talk about Thanksgiving food, and I didn't hear back in time. So on a whim, I said, Sheila, who's been a friend of mine for decades, she'd be a perfect person to have. So on a whim, last night, I sent an email late last night, and she responded this morning. And when I saw her email, I'll use this phrase, it warmed my heart. So thank you, Sheila, for being here. So Sheila is the lead cooking instructor at Milk Street Cooking School, and her website is Whisking Together, and you'll also find it on Instagram. Sheila, thank you for being here.
My pleasure. I was very happy to be asked. Very happy.
So the timing was really good, because next week you're actually doing some virtual classes for Milk Street on Thanksgiving side dishes. We
are. Next Thursday, the 19th, we have a virtual cooking class called Thanksgiving Sides. And we'll walk people through 3 different side dishes for Thanksgiving. And it's definitely got the Milk Street twist to it, meaning Milk Street definitely likes to emphasize lots of flavors, using lots of spices, lots of herbs. And there's a sweet potato, a roasted sweet potato dish that has an Indian twist to it. There's a Brussels sprout, raw, so uncooked Brussels sprout salad that has a browned butter vinaigrette. Brown butter, as everyone knows, very hot right now, very trendy. Everything has brown butter in it, but there's a good reason why. It's lots of flavor. simple to do. And that one, you don't need to worry about your oven space, which is also nice on Thanksgiving because, you got a lot of things going on. So to have something raw that you don't have to worry about using up oven space is great. And then we're also doing a green bean with mushrooms and a shallot. So just a little twist on green beans. So I know there's tickets available. If you go to our website, it's 177milkstreet.com. Go to the cooking school tab and you'll see virtual classes and you can sign up there. So love to people.
So what's hot this year? What are some of what are the hot side dishes? What are people kind of planning for?
What I love about this year personally is that I'm hoping people get a little more bold and experimental because you're probably cooking for a lot less people than you're normally cooking for, or you're probably not traveling like you normally have to bring something somewhere. It also is probably going to be a little more onus on you to cook the whole meal instead of just a piece of the meal. But at the same time, to me, that's a great challenge, and you can kind of experiment with things you don't normally have on your table for Thanksgiving. And, you're avoiding some of those people who, only eat mashed potatoes. So this year you could do a Hasselback au gratin instead of mashed potatoes, or, really mix it up. I'd say trending is definitely roasted vegetables have gotten very trendy. But roasting things like carrots, full carrots with a really nice, like a Chinese 5-spice rub on them, very trendy right now. Delicata squash is wonderful, roasted, and you can there's a New York Times recipe that has like an apple fennel roasted delicata squash salad. So my go-to sites are the New York Times sites. They have some great Thanksgiving lists. Food 52, great site for Thanksgiving ideas. Milk Street is always great. We don't tend to do things based on a holiday. We're more culturally driven, but you can definitely search any kind of vegetable and things like that. They'll come up for sure. I'm trying to think, is there any other sites I can direct people to?
Here's a question for you. And by the way, I just got a text from John Fine. I'm telling you to say hello to you. Here's a question. What's if you had to omit something from the Thanksgiving table, what's done? What's been overdone? What just doesn't belong there?
If you ask me, I'm gonna say the sweet potatoes with marshmallows. To me, I'm done with that. My kids might not agree with that. There's always a few that still want that, but I think there's so many more fun things you can do with a sweet potato than just put orange juice and mushrooms or marshmallows on it. So for me, I would look for something, a little more interesting to do with a sweet potato. People love mash. There's always going to be the favorites, the green beans with the crispy onions. I mean, some people got to have that. That's okay. That's, but then add something else that's a little more fun. That's my attitude. Have something kind of that everybody likes, but then throw in a few things that might just excite people that they wouldn't even think of. So.
Yeah, as you mentioned, as we all know, Thanksgiving is going to be very different for a lot of people this year, and it's not going to be most likely, or it shouldn't be big gatherings.
Right.
Even though there's an assemblyman from Staten Island who thinks differently, as I noticed on Twitter today. Are you seeing any recipes for like individual side dishes being made this year, so people aren't passing stuff around as much? Or
I haven't seen anything for like individual side dishes, but like I know New York Times has run a few articles just this week on cooking smaller portion side dishes, and left to me. The beauty of Thanksgiving is leftovers, right? So even if you're not going to eat it all, that's okay. Make sure you're cooking things that are great as a leftover, and you can have them for a couple of days. So I don't worry. Just keep in mind you're not. Sometimes you get in this habit of just cooking a huge pot of mashed potatoes, so you're not going to need that. So just scale that back. Probably don't need 4 desserts this year. Maybe only 2
or maybe you do. So this is kind of an interesting little segue too, because you're saying how that maybe this year, because people aren't cooking for big gangs, that they can be a little more experimental. Maybe they don't need to make that same traditional thing over and over again for those family members who are coming in to visit. And it's interesting because every year what I say about wine for Thanksgiving is to remember that it is a holiday, and it tends to be a family holiday. And if as much as I abhor things like White Zinfandel, if you've got like a great aunt who likes White Zinfandel, then I make sure you have it at the for Thanksgiving. But these things, because things are really going to be stripped down, I think meals are going to be more casual. They may be outside compared to wherever people are, right? And so there is an opportunity to experiment. And I think there's a chance for people to experiment with what they drink too. You don't have to go for the same old if you don't want to, or you can kind of really stick with tradition, can't you?
Right, and why not, right? It's an opportunity. Gotta.
Yeah. So, folks, if you have any questions for Sheila at all, you can put them right into the chat box, and I'll read those through. And I also will field any texts as well from you if you have any questions for her. I have a question because I was looking at your website, and you talk about some indispensable tools. What are some important tools people should have in their arsenal for preparing not just even Thanksgiving, but any kind of big holiday meal? What do you think are
big
important?
Holiday meals? You're probably, I hate to say this because it always makes me a little nervous, but having a mandolin is always very helpful.
Yeah, I had a mandolin experience earlier this year. But it is helpful. It
is helpful, especially if you are doing more of the gratins and slicing potatoes thinly. Although you can always use your food processor with a disc, and that might be even a better, safer way to go. Mm-hmm. But a mandolin is always, to me, very handy around these times of year. Let's see, other things that I can't live without are, the microplane. I'm always feeling like Milk Street recipes, we tend to, if you use a lemon or a lime or any kind of citrus, we encourage people to use every bit of that. If the recipe calls for juice your lemon, but also before you juice it, microplane that peel and have that nice zest and add that in as well. It's just another layer of flavor. So a microplane is great for that. Let me think other things on my website. For turkey, I hope you have a meat thermometer. That is a very important tool. There's one on my website that I highly recommend. It's an OXO. You should always have a meat thermometer for meats, but for everything, for your baking, that's one thing you don't want to guess at. And you want to make sure your turkey's cooked properly, your white meat versus your red meat. And really the only way to do that truly is with a meat thermometer. Okay. So definitely, I shouldn't call it a meat thermometer, just a Insta-read thermometer.
And they don't have to be expensive or super gadgety either, right?
No, it does not. It just make sure it's enough good quality that you're getting an accurate read. You always want to test your meat thermometer. You can either put it in a cup of boiling water or a cup of ice water and see, it should either be at 32 or 212. Mm-hmm. If it's not, many of them allow you to regulate it, turn it with a little screwdriver. The Insta-read ones don't, you can't really adjust them, but they tend to be really quite accurate. So I highly recommend that. A good set.
I have a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
One is, Vivian wants to know, what's your favorite side dish?
This year, I'm actually looking forward to making a mushroom bread pudding. And the reason I like that is it can be a side dish, but it could also be your stuffing if you want, or your dressing this year. And a few reasons I like it. I love mushrooms, number one. They're kind of meaty. They'll be great for when you get to your red wine discussion tonight. To me, mushrooms and red wine go great, especially adding some cheese. A little Gruyere in there is never going to be a bad thing.
Never a problem.
But you make it the day ahead. That's the other thing I love about it. You make it the day ahead. It soaks overnight. All you have to do is put it in the oven the next day. So, you got one major thing off your list on Thanksgiving.
Which is a great segue, because another question that was asked is, what's okay to make a day or two in advance? And what do you recommend doing the day of?
A lot of things are you can do in advance. Even things if you're doing like a shaved Brussels sprout, cooked or uncooked, you can shave those the day ahead, put them in a Ziploc and keep them in your fridge. I tend to like to do the more tedious things the day ahead. The one thing you can't, if you're a big mashed potato person, mashed potatoes,
Yeah,
and I
they're not
tried it a few different ways, very hard to make ahead. And you can't, let's say you're doing a gratin, don't peel and cut your potatoes and say, put them in a bowl of water overnight. It'll prevent browning, but it takes out all the starch, and you need that starch for a gratin to really come out right. So you really can't do that. Let's see, things you can any of your casserole things. So if, let's say you are doing your traditional sweet potato with marshmallows or any other pecan topping, those you can definitely make it the day ahead. And the trick is you can either actually cook them all the way through, or say, I like to do some things, cook it like 3/4 of the way through. Let it cool down, put it in overnight, and then when you go to cook it the next day to warm it up, then you can add another 15 minutes and let it just brown off on the top and finish cooking. But you're getting rid of most of the cooking time the day before. Again, bread puddings are great if you're doing stuffing. Dressing, not a stuffing. You're not stuffing your bird. You're doing your dressing on the side. Absolutely, you can do that the day ahead. Again, I'd brown it off the next day. After the turkey comes out, you throw it in. Let's see, other really good things. The green beans and things, if you're doing that kind of casserole, I would prep the green beans, have those ready, but I would save the cooking for them the day of because they're pretty quick. You don't have to worry about that. I'm trying to think if you're a mac and cheese family, I know that some people are really traditional, like their mac and cheese. I'm a big mac and cheese fan myself. So that's super easy to do the day before. Again, I'd cook it 3/4 of the way and let it cool off, put it in the fridge, and then finish it off the next day. Let's see, salads, again, if you're making a nice big salad, some kind of kale salad, again, you can do all the prep the day before. You can even make the vinaigrette the day before, have it all ready, and then just toss it, the day of.
You can do just about anything, right? Yeah,
you can do just the mashed potatoes are really the one thing you can't do ahead.
So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put you off to the side for a few minutes. I'm going to bring Robin back for a minute. I'm going to bring you back because there's more questions to answer, and we'll think of more things to talk about. So we'll be back in a moment, and I'm going to bring Robin back in for a sec. Okay?
Sounds good.
See you in a few. Hi, Robin.
Hi, Hank.
Okay, here's the part now, Robin, where you get to be a wine critic.
Oh, good. I thought you were going to ask me about recipes, and I was starting to.
No. I read your Facebook post about the whole cooking thing, so I'm not going to put you on the spot there. Don't worry about that. Robin, tell me about this wine. What did you think?
Well, it's my favorite so far.
Excellent.
I actually really like it. I have not been a huge sparkling wine person in my life. I'm kind of a red wine gal, but I appreciate this one.
You appreciate it. That's good.
I will add it to my repertoire.
All right. I'm glad you appreciate it. But honestly, if you don't like something, you should feel obligated. Don't feel obligated to say you like it. My whole feeling about wine is that it's all about personal taste, and there's no wrong answer except for White Zinfandel. So if people now, what I will say about these wines, and what I say at a lot of my events, is that these are all considered good wines, and I think they're all good wines. These are wines that I drink, whether the specific wine or the style. But that's my personal taste, and if someone doesn't agree with my personal taste, that's okay. It's not like it's politics. So anyway, so I'm glad that you do like it, and I'm going to bring you back to talk about the next wine. So think of some good buzzwords and catch.
I will. I'm going to Google.
Okay. Okay. See you. All right. So another little piece of business. You see that little scroll going down the bottom there. One of the things that's there is my Venmo. So I don't get paid to do these things. So what I do every month is that I will ask you if you like this, if you want to make a contribution to me, and whatever comes in today, I will split 50-50 with MEND. So any Venmo contributions that come in, you'll see it scroll down there eventually. You'll also see Sheila's website there, her address. You'll also see that tomorrow night at 6 p.m. on Instagram Live, Paris Review, my friend Valerie Stivers and I are doing a talk and tasting about her latest column, and all that information is on the Paris Review events page on their website. Valerie writes this really cool column called Eat Your Words, where she takes some famous classic literature and recreates food from it. And I'm her spirits guide. I'm the one who kind of comes up with some wine ideas for it. We were just talking about her upcoming column, which is going to be on James Baldwin, and we're picking out wines for that. And tomorrow night is going to be based on her column about Gabrielle Witkoff, who wrote this kind of horror period piece back that took place at the end of the Venetian Empire. So we're talking about wines that actually are available today that were written in this book 400 years ago, which is kind of cool. So anyway, that's a little bit of business. And if there are any wine questions, I am looking. Anne is not a sparkling wine person, but this is good. Thank you, Anne. I agree with you. Jennifer says it's delish. I agree with you too, Jennifer. I love sparkling wine, again, not just to celebrate elections or things like that or holidays, but sparkling wine tends to be an incredibly versatile food wine. And you can get really good sparkling wine for not a whole lot of money, or you can spend a whole fortune on it. And I've got to tell you what, I love champagnes. And some of them are just grossly overpriced, and they're overproduced. I know a lot of people out there are big fans of Veuve Clicquot, and Veuve Clicquot is not bad wine, but Veuve Clicquot is a wine that gets an 89 to a 91 point rating, which isn't bad. It's not honor roll, but they make over 2 million cases a year of it, and it's owned by a luxury goods company. So I would prefer to actually give my money, if I'm buying champagne, to what are known as grower champagne producers. These are small family-owned businesses where they're growing their own grapes and making the champagne, not contracting it out to bunches of growers. And the people who are selling that wine are the ones who actually have their hands in the field working on it and making the wines, not sitting up in the corporate offices at Louis Vuitton, LVMH. So again, I don't dislike that wine. If somebody wanted to give me a bottle of Clicquot, I would drink it, but I would rather produce something. I'd rather support something that is smaller, something that is more craft made, something that where I know the money's going to the people who make it. You may have heard this, but in the past 8 months, people have been drinking a lot, and alcohol consumption has been way up. And unfortunately, though, the people who are most hurt by that are the small craft producers, because they don't have the ability to get out there and people's consciousness through advertising and websites, or be sold through big retailers. So it's this cycle that even though sales are tremendously up at big retailers and for big wineries and companies, it's actually hurting a lot of the small players, and they're the ones who actually need the support most. So that's another thing about some of these wines here. The plot of land that the Josés are using to make this exilé is probably about 4 or 5 acres worth of grapes. So it's not getting a whole lot of wine made out of that. So again, I like to bring you stuff that helps support some of these smaller players, but also stuff that you're not just going to find on every shelf in every store out there. So anyway, one more sip of that, and then I'm going to go over to my white wine, which is not a white wine. Now, one of the cool things is, for anyone who's opened that wine, you look at the top of that cork, right? I'll show you that picture for those who didn't see it. And that is not a squid. That's not calamari. That is an amphora. And one of the cool things about this wine is that it's been aged in clay amphora, which is something that's been pretty traditional for thousands of years in northern Italy, and then especially into Eastern Europe, in Slovenia and Georgia especially. And this is what is known as an orange wine. And it doesn't taste like orange or smell like orange or made from orange, but an orange wine, and you can see the cast on that when you pour it for yourselves, unless you're sitting in the dark, is orange, because this is a white wine version of a rosé. The reason a rosé is its color is because the red grapes are left. the skins from the red grapes are left in contact with the juice for a minimal amount of time, giving it that pink cast. On the flip side, when you age your white wine with skin contact like this, it gets a little bit more of an orange cast and a little bit more mouthfeel. Why? Because those white grapes, green grapes, actually some of them get an orange cast to them as they ripen. And what's so great about having an orange wine? Well, it's really a white wine with just a little more spine, a little more backbone. And the way I look at it, Thanksgiving is a white wine, rosé, sparkling wine meal. It is not a big red wine meal. And I think because I think a lot of people think of Thanksgiving as a big meal based on the volume of what people eat. But if you look at a lot of the food that's on that plate, it's, you know, it's really, it's poultry and it's a lot of vegetables and some starches. And you don't need to have a big monster red wine that's 15-16% alcohol, big Cabernet, which doesn't really, Cabernet goes with a Thanksgiving meal if you're eating roast beef for Thanksgiving. And raise your hands if you're having roast beef for Thanksgiving. And if you want to drink it, that's great. You know, big Zinfandels. Everyone says drink a Zinfandel. It's an American grape. Well, it technically is not an American grape. It actually is an Eastern European grape. But you know, 15-16% alcohol. You don't need a lot of alcohol on top of a meal that's already loading you down with starches and creams and you know, spices and salt and sugar. And let's not forget the tryptophan. So I like lighter. I like lighter that has a little more precision. That's why I like sparkling wines. And I like a white wine that's got some spine to it. And that's what orange wine does to me. Castro Marischi is the winery. It is, as I said, it's aged in amphora. They age this wine on the skins for a number of days. You also notice on your bottle they actually have Braille on all their labels here as well, which I think is pretty cool. This is made from 3 different grapes: Malvasia. I'm trying to think what the Vermentino, and I think the third grape, I might even say right on the label here, it does not, is Muscat, actually, I believe. So so they blend those grapes, they age them in these clay amphora for at least 6 months, and on the skins, and then you get this really pretty color, and you get a white wine that has a little more tact to it. I like this. There's no sweetness there. Again, it's crisp, but it has a mouthfeel to it, and that's what the skin contact does. Skin is good. Skin contact is excellent, and what it does, it just gives a little more feel, gives a little more body to that wine. If this was not made with skin contact, this would be a wine that would taste a lot like a Pinot Grigio. But having that skin contact just gives a little more weight, a little more spine to it, and I think makes it really hold up nicely to a big meal. Now, orange wine is like a hot thing now. It's in a lot of the trendy shops and a lot of trendy stores. But again, it's a style of wine that's been made for thousands of years. Just this past Sunday, we drove down to a vineyard in the Brandywine Valley called Val Vineyard. And it's a 2-hour drive from Maplewood, and it's in the middle of all these mushroom farms. And Anthony there is a true vigneron, Anthony Vietri, and he makes only about 700 or 800 cases of wine a year using all these Northern Italian varietals. He makes 2 red wines, a Nebbiolo like we're going to have next, and also is going to have, he also does a dark rosé, but he does an orange wine. It's a white, he calls it a white wine. It's a skin contact wine. And I laughed with him. I said, Anthony, you've been making this wine for 15, 20 years. And he says, yeah, I know. He says, for all these years, we never told people it was orange wine because we didn't want them to freak out and think that there was something wrong with it. So he said, now we're finally able to say it because it's part of the wine drinking vernacular, if you will. So you'll find orange wines, Eastern Europe, Northern Italy, Spain, Portugal. You'll find some in New York, in Finger Lakes, Hudson Valley, out on Long Island. Channing Daughters on Long Island does a Pinot Grigio orange wine, which they call Ramato. Ramato means rust in Italian, as opposed to Rosato, which is the Italian name for rosé. In Oregon, Kate, you're going to find some orange wines out there too. So Again, I just love these wines. I think they're really, really good. And this is a pretty cool winery in Marche. Marche is kind of straight across from Tuscany on the Adriatic, if you're looking at your Italian map in front of you right now. And I'm sure all of you have pulled one up. So Anthony, Greg is asking me, the bottle has a tiny sticker. Should we peel it off and see what's underneath? I don't think anything bad will happen if you do peel it off. So by all means, give it a shot. I have not done that myself, Greg. So, but if you can report back and let me know what happens when you do, that's that'd be good. Thank you. Are you better off not peeking? You know, it's your wine, Greg. Do what you want with it. Really, it's up to you. Before I bring Sheila back to talk about food some more, I'm going to bring Robin back. Robin, what do you think of this wine?
I'm mixed on this one, to be honest, Hank. Okay. I am. I like it. My comment to Dan was that I thought it was a little boring, and he said that meant it was smooth. So we're trying to get our terms right. But I can see how it would complement a big meal, for sure.
So that's the other thing too. I picked these wines actually to go with food. I think if you had something to eat with this, for those of you that have the cheese boxes, if you try some of the food with this, I think it actually will see how it changes the character and the taste of the wine. That doesn't mean you're going to have to like it after you have it with some food, Robin. Again, it's all personal taste. But
again, I'm a red wine.
But I do appreciate
a little bias built in.
Okay.
And by the way, I will say, I usually choose my wine by like the label. So
yeah,
a
lot of people do. Marketing is incredibly important. I learned something a number of years ago. Someone I know did a study, and one of the reasons why labels have flowers and kittens and stuff on them is, you know, okay, I'm gonna get in trouble for saying this. 70% of all wine is purchased by women. So in a lot of cases, wine labels are made to appeal to female consumers. So the marketing, the label is very important. I find it really important too, because I learn a lot from it. There's also been, I think in the last 10 years, about 8-9 years ago, I did a wine themed art show in Maplewood, and I'm going to do another one coming up hopefully in 2021. And just in the past 8-9 years, you know, the commitment to art that is on labels has gotten to be really tremendous, because you need to capture somebody's attention. And the study was that if you are a consumer in a store, and Robin, say there's Robin Peacock wine on the shelf, you only have no more than 3 seconds to capture that consumer's attention with your label. So you're going to want to make sure that it's actually a pretty cool label. So then when Robin Peacock consumer comes along, it's going to catch her attention, and she's going to say, hey, it's a Robin Peacock wine. I think I'll try that.
That's right.
Okay. So, all right. Thank you. Thank you for your honest opinion, and I'll bring you back again for the next one.
I don't dislike it.
No, honestly, I'm not hurt. I don't own the winery. Really, it's fine. See you in a few minutes.
All right.
Bye. Hi, Sheila.
Okay, take my.
Welcome back. See, I have to keep my glasses on so I can read comments from people. So
mine are too shiny.
Look at John. Oh, John Fine is sending. Wow, other people are watching this. Sheila, Frank Alvarez is watching too. How cool is that? Hi, Frank. So, it's like old home week here.
You're doing the cooking, you guys. Now that I give you all the tips.
Oh yeah, sure. John Fine's going to cook. Okay, so just to go back to a couple of questions that were asked. David asked way back, what do you think about brining a turkey?
Oh, I have lots of opinions on brining. You know, I think brining was a trend, and it comes in and out. I am personally a dry brine fan. I am not a big fan of the wet brine. I think it's an enormous amount of hassle for what you're going to get benefit-wise. You know, again, this year, you're probably cooking a smaller turkey. So then, you know, this might be the year to try it, because you're not dealing with the big, giant 28-pound turkey. But what I tell people that I like to do is do a dry brine. So so that's more of like just a seasoned salt mixture that you're just rubbing it all over that turkey, and
You're not going under the skin with that.
you did not initially, and
Okay.
you let it overnight sit in it, and then the next day you're kind of patting it off because you don't want to cook it with all that salt. And then now I like to flavor under the skin. So you can, some people add a little butter. I don't usually add butter under my skin. I feel there's enough fat in that skin. I do like to put a thin layer of olive oil on my skin. What I like to put under the skin is—
She's talking turkey, folks. She's talking turkey. Just so if you just tuned in.
I do like to put thin slices of, say, garlic or very thin slices of lemon and scatter that about. And then I put whole chunks of herbs, like stems of rosemary, stems of thyme, sage, anything. You can just put it all over. And that flavor is just going to melt right in. And that's why, to me, you don't need to put— I know some people love to put butter under the skin. I don't think personally you need to do it. I look more for flavor, and I think you're going to get more interesting flavors with your herbs and garlic and lemon and things like that. So again, I normally don't even brine my turkeys, to be honest, at all, just because I don't think it's a lot of effort. If you don't get the dry brine off properly, you might end up with too much salt, and it can be salty. So you got to be careful. You got to make sure you get rid of a lot of that salt before you cook. And like I said, when you're dealing with a smaller bird, it's probably going to be more tender anyway. When you do have a bigger bird, you probably are getting a little more benefit from it, but it's harder to do just because the bird is so much bigger, and especially if you're doing a wet brine. That's all, you need a giant tub, and it's got to stay cold.
Right.
So it's tricky, in my opinion.
And I guess that's something that's sort of relevant to another question we got was, how do you feel about frying a turkey? Because again, you're making a pretty big commitment to size and space and
a lot of oil. You got to buy a lot of oil, which it does make me sad to buy all that oil and only use it once, but I have to say, to me, it's a lot easier than brining, and it is an amazingly flavorful way to cook a turkey. I mean, you're getting, and the reduction in time is awesome too. You're cutting down your cooking time. You're getting a lot of flavor and just a pretty much guaranteed juicy bird. The downside is, a lot of oil.
And nobody wants to clean up after a big meal, and that really requires attention.
Yeah, and you got to do it outside. That's the other thing. So you got to have the space somewhere to do it outside. So and
no critters walking around the yard.
Careful with that hot oil. That it's dangerous. So it's not for the faint of heart, but it does give a great result. I will give you that.
So are people who buy canned cranberry sauce lazy?
Well, in a word, kind of yes, because cranberry sauce is super easy to make.
I'm sorry, Robin's laughing. I'm sorry, Robin.
I don't look down upon anything. If that's where you just don't want to spend your time, use the canned sauce. It's right. There's nothing wrong with it. But cranberry sauce, though, is super easy to make. I mean,
it's easy.
Literally throw them in the pot, add a little water, orange juice, some spices, and cook it for like 20 minutes, and you're done. So and that's one you can make 2 or 3 days ahead easily, and just have it sit there.
So I roast a turkey like once a month starting in September, and because I just think it's easy. It's if you can roast a chicken, you can roast a turkey, and you get a lot of meals out of it, and then you can make soup out of it. And I know Sheila makes soup because when I was at her home a few years ago, she's like, "Oh, come on in. I just made some soup." And I sat down at her counter and talked with her, and she gave me a bowl of chicken soup. It was like, "Oh, this is really nice." So, but you get a lot out of it, and they're really not that tough to make. So, but I guess if you're going to do something that's a shortcut, canned cranberry sauce is better than canned string beans, right? Or something.
Absolutely. That's exactly right. I mean, the good news is there's nothing bad in canned cranberry. You know, it's not like they put a lot of bad stuff in it. They don't. So go ahead and use it. But
and there's a good chance. Some of those cranberries either came from Massachusetts, where you live, or New Jersey, where you are from originally.
Exactly.
Yeah, pretty cool. I'm seeing all these people like chiming in about the canned cranberry sauce here. So, so Robin, you're not alone.
No, don't. No shame. No shame.
Okay. Did I get oh, no, that's not a text. I thought I was getting a text question coming in. Any other food questions right this moment? Gravy. Now, how do you make gravy ahead of time? Now, because a lot of times you're using the drippings from roasting it.
Yeah,
But
it's hard to make ahead unless you're like you, where you're constantly making turkeys, so you can use your drippings from your last turkey. But you
constantly making them, make them once a month.
Better than, because you could take those drippings and freeze them or whatever,
right?
Or make that gravy and freeze it. But if you're not doing that, it's kind of hard to make your gravy ahead if you want a really good dripping gravy. But again, it's also not that hard. You know, and you remember, you always want your meat to rest a good 20 minutes to half an hour after you take it out, your turkey. So you've got some time there to make the gravy. I mean, it's pretty, I'm a cornstarch person with my gravy. Pretty foolproof. I scrape up the bits. I add my slurry, which is just cornstarch and water, and then add my seasonings. And, it takes about 5-10 minutes. And I run it through a strainer and rate it in the gravy boat. So it's a pretty easy last minute thing to do, especially if you've been good about getting a lot of the other stuff done ahead. And if you're just making the gravy, it shouldn't overwhelm you. But it's hard to do ahead.
So if people are stripping down their Thanksgiving this year, maybe we know that most people aren't going to buy the 25-pound monster turkey. Most likely, they're going for that 12 to 14 range, maybe, or even smaller. Maybe they're just buying the breast. What are some other protein options you think people could explore for Thanksgiving?
In addition, like to go along with your turkey,
or instead of turkey.
Well, instead of, the sky's the limit. As you said, you don't have to have turkey for Thanksgiving. It is, you could even do just a chicken, right?
I felt compelled, kind of. I remember being away one year for Thanksgiving, and on a beach in St. Martin, and I bought a turkey wrap because it was Thanksgiving. So I sort of feel like I need to have turkey. That's it.
I think most.
I'm a traditional guy, though. What can I say?
Yeah, most people feel that way, but you know what? Don't feel like you have to. If you want to have a roast instead of a ham or beef, go for it. You don't have to have turkey. In fact, I think if you read a lot, if you get into the history books, I'm not sure they even had that much turkey on Thanksgiving back in the day. Yeah. So if you want to have a clam bake, have a clam bake.
And one of the things I noticed Thanksgiving week is the prices on chicken and pork tend to be on sale because traditionally nobody's buying it that week. So,
right.
So by all means, have.
You can do a nice pork loin. Do it. Pork is the other white meat, so you could go for that too.
They probably eat venison anyway.
That's what they say, right? So anyway, I don't think you have to stick with turkey. I know my family would probably have a revolt, but anyway.
All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to now go to the next line, and I'm going to come back, and we're going to talk desserts.
Sure.
And then someone did. Irene posted. She said, if it's not shaped like a can, it's a cranberry sauce. And that's one of the things I'll say about canned cranberry sauce, because that's what I grew up with. And I always used to like the kind of cool pattern at the top of the can left on it. You always wanted the end cut on the cranberry sauce because it had that cool design on it. So, and Christine writes that we love to do duck or salmon for Thanksgiving. And
salmon would be awesome, I think.
Yeah, and I think they both make sense too, because you think about, one of the things I talk about a lot with wine pairing is pairing the weight of the wine with the weight of the food. And duck or salmon is a very similar weight to turkey. Right. So I think a lot of it kind of fits. Okay, I'll bring you back in a few. Okay.
Good.
Think desserts.
Okay.
All right. Don't worry, Rob, I'm not going to bring it back just yet. Red wine. So, again, one of the things I mentioned is I like wines that are lighter, that are a little more flexible, that aren't overly oaked, that have some interest and nuance to them. I mean, one of the things I liked about those first two wines is that they taste like wine. There's lots of great fruit and flavor in them, but there's also a little bit of kind of funkiness and earthiness in them too. And when you think about the types of fall vegetables and mushrooms, if you have a mushroom heavy dish or stuffing, you think about if you like dark meat turkey, which I like. These. It's nice to have a little bit of earthiness in the wine to go with that. So, but people do like red wine, and I love red wine too. And I have to say, the wine that I sort of have really fallen in love with, the red wine I've fallen in love with, well, I fall in love with a lot of wines, is Nebbiolo. And Nebbiolo is native to Piemonte in Italy. And the Nebbiolo that most of us know about are Barolos and Barbarescos. And these are big wines. Now, what I mean by big, they're not big in alcohol. They tend to be 13, 14% alcohol, which is very reasonable. But they're big in that they're very tannic. If any of you tea drinkers out there, if you drink like a plain tea and you get that chalky taste on your tongue and the roof of your mouth, that's what the tannins are. And tannins are important for wines that are ageable, that you kind of want to hold on to for a while. And the tannins come from the skins, and some red grape skins have more tannins than others. And Nebbiolo is one of those, and that's why it's great to get a Barolo and drink one that's got 7, 10, 15, 20 years of age to it. But it's a beautiful grape, and I think it's probably one of the prettiest colored wines, red wines that exists out there. And this is a Nebbiolo from Piemonte, but not from the Langa region where Barolo and Barbaresco are from, but from a little farther north of there, kind of in between where Lake Como is and Milan. So it's a little bit cooler. This wine's not going to be as tannic. I love one of the things I love about Nebbiolo. Nebbiolo has cherry and tar and smells of violets or rose petals, and there's always great things that go on in it. But it's also, again, this is about 13% alcohol. Again, it's a really pretty wine if you hold it up to the light. And it's just got a lot of different things going on with it that would probably actually pick up notes of different foods that you have on your Thanksgiving table. And that's the thing about Thanksgiving is it's not like it's not protein, starch, and vegetable, but it's this whole panoply of different textures and flavors and heat levels and spices and saltiness and creams and sugars and stuff. So why I like sparkling wine as an example is because the effervescence, the acidity in sparkling wine helps to cut through a lot of that. But with Nebbiolo, it's sort of the opposite. There's lots of things in Nebbiolo that will go with different aspects of what's on your table. So, Greg, this is a good question. So Greg is asking. So first I'll ask, what am I serving? Shama, I think we're having duck. That was the last bit of conversation. I think it might be duck. Sheila mentioned she's making a mushroom wild bread pudding. I make that all the time. I think it's great, and it's easier than stuffing, and I'm not worried about not cooking we have a fear in our household here that the poultry has never been cooked enough. So I don't like to stuff a turkey. I'd rather make it on the side. So it looks like duck, possibly maybe goose, but we'll see. It's still up in the air. Greg has asked, what am I looking for on the label to know this one is Nebbiolo? You're trusting me on this one, Greg. It does not say it's Nebbiolo. But what it does say, though, is on the back is that it says red wine, and you wouldn't even know this from the label because I just noticed that. It says it's from Lasona, and Lasona is that area I was telling you about in Piemonte. But again, you're trusting me that it's Nebbiolo, and that's why I got it. And it's actually, the nice thing about this wine, too, is because it's not Barolo or Barbaresco, it is a lot less expensive probably than one of those wines would be. And it's also a wine that you can drink now. It's a wine that doesn't require many years of aging. Tannins are great if you're having something with like a big fat content. And that's the time when like a big Cabernet comes in handy. Because when you're eating, people will always pair the big juicy steak with a big brawny Cabernet. And what ends up happening is the fat in the steak kind of tames those tannins, and you get a really nice kind of combination going there. Otherwise, though, a tannic wine can really overwhelm some lighter food. So, one of the things that I always talk about is pairing by weight. Light-bodied wines with light-bodied food, medium-bodied, and fuller-bodied. And that's why the whole thing about white wine with fish doesn't necessarily work, because salmon is not a light-bodied fish. It can be very fatty and meatier. So at least consider it medium-bodied, if not full-bodied in some cases, especially if it's wild salmon and it's got more of that kind of fishiness to it. Tuna and swordfish often gets paired with red wine before it gets paired with white wine, again because of that meatiness of it as well too. So I kind of go for I tried to pair with weight. There was Sean Connery died recently, and people were talking about their favorite James Bond scenes. Well, mine tend to be wine related, and there is wine. Everyone knows of martinis, but there's wine, I think, in every single Bond movie. Different champagnes through the years have actually been the product placement in those movies. But the one movie with Sean Connery, From Russia with Love, I think it was, when Robert Shaw from Jaws was a blonde, he was the bad guy, and they're sitting in the dining car, and Robert Shaw orders a Dover sole, very fine, very light fish, and he doesn't, and James had ordered a claret or a Chianti or some red wine with his meal, and so Robert Shaw, who we know is a bad guy, but of course James Bond didn't realize at that point was a bad guy, also orders the red wine with his fish. And 2 scenes later, when Robert Shaw has James Bond at gunpoint, James says, "I should have known you were bad when you ordered the claret with the fish." So claret being a red wine. So you know what? Again, you can have whatever you want with anything, but the idea of pairing things is to get the most out of both, not to have one thing overwhelm the other. So you can drink a big red wine with a piece of Dover sole, just you're not going to really taste the Dover sole. So that's the reason for trying to find the right wine. It's not about perfection. It's just about getting the most out of everything and enjoying it the most and getting the most flavor out of it. So Tracy says the scent alone of this one is scrumptious. Yes, Tracy, I agree. And that's the beauty of Nebbiolo. As I said, Nebbiolo has this great smell of sometimes violets or rose petals. Some of them are distinctly like rose petals. They don't taste like it, but you also get that kind of cherries coming through on this thing too, and sometimes a little bit of tar in there as well. But none of it is offensive, and it's it's not like playing on the street when you were a kid on a 95-degree day. Not that kind of scent of tar. So. I love Nebbiolo, and I think Nebbiolo is a really good wine. Pinot Noir is a wine that a lot of people pair as well with Thanksgiving, and I would say you wouldn't be wrong to pair that. Again, because Pinot Noir tends to be, when it's made the right way, a medium-bodied wine. Sometimes we get these California versions that were a little bit too ripe, a little bit too full-bodied. I like lighter Pinot Noirs that I can see through, more of a Burgundian style, and I think that's a better food wine. Not as big and not as jammy and oaky. Steve wants to know, what wine would Quint order? Well, it's funny you say that, Steve, because I think there's a scene where they're drinking Narragansetts, which is not a wine, of course, unless I guess you can consider it Rhode Island wine, on the boat during Jaws. But there is a scene where who are the other characters there? Help me out here. The guy who went to Columbia High School. I should know this. Who's in that movie? Help me out, Columbia High School grads. Who's in the Columbia High School Hall of Fame? Who was in Jaws? But there's a scene though where they're sitting at the kitchen table and talking before they go out on the boat with Quint, and they are drinking these big ass bottles of Bordeaux, B&G, which is still sold like Roy Scheider. Thank you Thank you, Eileen, another Columbia High School grad. I appreciate that. Steve, sorry, Steve, Eileen beat you to the punch with the answer. Chief Brody, thank you, Tracy. Okay, now you're showing off your trivia. Hooper and Brody. Oh, everyone's chiming in now. Richard Dreyfuss, that's the other guy. Anyway, they're drinking this big, liter bottle of Bordeaux B&G, which is a mass-produced kind of a Bordeaux. So yes, it's a curse I have. I noticed these kind of wine things in popular culture. In fact, Valerie Stivers and I, who I co-write with, we started doing a video series called Redrinking, where we actually talk about wine and spirits references and various forms of popular and not so popular culture too. So my curse is that I'm watching a TV show and someone's trying to figure out the plot, and I'm trying to figure out what they're drinking. So anyway, Nebbiolo, love it. If you're looking for Nebbiolo, to buy Nebbiolo, again, this is from Piemonte, but the region, if you will, where the Barolo and Barbaresco come from is the Langa, Langhe, or Langa sometimes in Italian. And a nice thing about that is that a lot of times if you're buying a Nebbiolo from that region, it's often the same grapes that they're using to make the higher end Barolos and Barbarescos too. So they can often be some of the best values in the wine world. Okay, I'm bringing Sheila back. Hi, Sheila.
Back. Yeah.
How you doing?
Good. Good.
Cool. All right. Oh, someone's texting me here. No questions though. Okay, I thought it was a text question. All right, so we've gotten through the meal. What's
dessert?
We need to make pumpkin pie.
Yeah, I don't think I'm doing pumpkin pie this year. I think my featured dessert, I think, is going to be a cranberry tart. So it's a cranberry curd in a hazelnut tart. And I think it's a great option for people who get overwhelmed with rolling dough. I know that gets a lot of people worked up. And a tart is a great way to avoid that. You don't have to worry about the rolling out of the dough. You're really just pressing it in. You roll it out a little bit, but you're really pressing it into a tart pan. So it's a little more forgiving in that regard, in my opinion. And so if you get nervous about pie doughs and rolling, go for a tart. I like the idea of a cranberry tart. I just think color-wise, kind of fun, different, and taste-wise, really refreshing at the end of the meal, right? Just nice.
You're not using canned cranberry sauce for that.
No, you can't use cranberry. You have to go with the real thing. So you can use the can at the meal, but then for dessert, go for the real thing. I also am going to be making, again, because I'm a small crowd this year, only 6 people, I ran across a really yummy looking cookie. It's a pumpkin chocolate pecan cookie, which just to me sounds awesome together. I think chocolate and pumpkin are a really good combo. And I love a nut in my cookie. And so, that's just another, besides having 3 different pies, I think I'm going to do a pie and a cookie instead. And I have a feeling there will be an apple pie in there as well, because it's just kind of tradition. But those are, there's lots of ways you can go with dessert. Again, you don't have to, you can go with the pumpkin cheesecake. To me, that seems a little heavy after your meal. And if you're the type of family which we sometimes have our meal, like at 4 o'clock, and then we gather maybe 2 hours later and have dessert. If that's your style, then a cheesecake might work.
I grew up in Staten Island, where Thanksgiving also had a pasta course and an antipasto before the meal started. So, talk about strapping on the feed bag. It's, cheesecake, forget about it, bring it on. It's great. So.
But I love a pumpkin cheesecake. I think that's awesome. I am a huge fan of pecan pie, and those are, again, pretty easy to make. Pecan pies are not too terribly difficult. And it's a single crust, so it's not as complicated. And so those are always a crowd pleaser. Again, for me, it can sometimes be a little overly sweet after a big meal, but if you're putting it off until later and cutting it with a little, just plain ice cream or whipped cream, it's a good way to cut down on the sweetness, add a few more calories. But so that's what I'm thinking about this year.
So, Sheila, Tracy wants to know if you have a particular recipe for the cranberry tart.
Yes, New York Times has a great recipe. It's a David Tanis recipe. So if you get New York Times cooking, you can. I'll try to put it up on my website too, because I'm gonna probably make it this week and post it on my website. But it's a New York Times recipe, and it's just called a cranberry curd tart. And hopefully you should be able to get it there.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, you are kind of puffing up the competition here, but there are some Times employees I know who are participating tonight, so I'm sure they appreciate the plug for their publication too. So, all right. Oh, I think you've. Let me do this. You're kind of ducked out here. I'm gonna take you off and bring you right back on because you're sort of frozen. Hang on. Let's see. Let's try that.
Back again.
Yeah. Oh, good. You're better. You're back.
No. Technology.
Right.
It's great.
Any folks? Do you have any more food questions out there? Okay. I want to say this, that a lot of the folks who are participating tonight are people that I know in my community. Some I'm meeting for the first time. People I've known for a lot of years, but nobody tonight who I've known as long as you. And I knew Sheila when I had hair. So when I said earlier that it warmed my heart that you were involved here, it's like hanging out with you again, and that's a pretty cool thing. So I appreciate that you were able to be here tonight. Thank you. Someone asked, what do we feed vegans? Brussels sprouts.
Vegans are right. So let's see. As far as you could go with the bread pudding. Obviously, let's see. We have to take out. You have to use one of your vegan cheeses, but the bread should be fine. I always like vegans to have something of substance. So, there'll be lots of sides they can do, but let's think what else I might add.
Let them eat sides. That's what I say.
Yeah, but you do want to have something substantial. So
no tofurkey though, right?
Yeah, or you might think of doing some kind of salad with heavy on a bean. Get some beans in there, chickpeas somehow, just so that they get a good protein source.
Some protein.
In fact, what I would do is do maybe some crispy chickpeas. Any of the salads that you see, those great kale salads, the Brussels sprout salads, but you could top them with some sauteed chickpeas that you just saute in oil and then throw in some spices at the end. I actually coat them with cornstarch before I saute them, and so they get a really nice crisp to them. And that's a great way to get some protein in and beef up a salad that way.
Cool.
Also,
someone mentioned a sweet potato peanut stew. Christine and/or Greg mentioned that. So
awesome with coconut milk, and yep, that would be delicious. Yeah.
Hey, by the way, Houseworks, do you have one of those old Joy of Cookings? The old Joy of Cookings actually have like squirrel recipes and stuff like that in there too. So it's like the real critter recipes. And I had an old one once before it fell apart, and I was like, hey, wow, there's a squirrel recipe. I like that. That's pretty cool. And yes, the Nebbiolo Robin would go well with the squirrel. I tell you that. So, all right. Sheila, thank you.
A pleasure. Pleasure being back in New Jersey. Virtually.
Yeah, virtually at least. I'm gonna get you off screen here. Thank you again. I appreciate you coming on and catching up with you. And I'm gonna bring Robin back because Robin needs to review the next wine. Bye, Sheila.
Bye.
Hi, Robin.
Hi, Hank.
How are you?
I'm good. I've been waiting for this moment.
Were you writing down buzzwords and stuff?
No, I started looking them up and I couldn't say them. I couldn't do it. And take myself seriously.
How's this? Do you like it? Do you like it or not like it?
Yes, it's like the grand finale. I'm a fan. It did remind me of Pinot Noir. I don't know if that's going to like ruffle feathers, but
No, it's not going to.
Yeah.
It's certainly a fair comparison. because of the weight and the style that it's made. And reason why I think I started going to more toward Nebbiolo from Pinot Noir is that Pinot Noirs can be very expensive and unpredictable. Not that Nebbiolo is not. It is not expensive, but I think that it's Pinot Noir is like a heartbreaker wine for winemakers and for people who buy it. And I think this is just a very similar style, similar weight, can make beautiful wines just like Pinot Noir. But again, it's just more reliable, I think. So, and we like reliable, don't we?
Yeah, it's delicious. Reliable is delicious.
Delicious, excellent. By the way, Margaret Santana says Robin with an exclamation mark there. So there you go.
She's a plant in the audience.
Oh, got it. Anybody have any questions for Robin? Any food questions?
You can rip on my terrible review of wines. Hank is the expert.
Any food questions for Robin? Any cooking questions?
Oh, no, don't ask those to me. Bring Sheila back for the food.
Hey, by the way, just to remind everybody, so you see that little scroll going by. I know you've stopped looking at it, folks. Anything that's contributed to my Venmo account tonight gets split 50-50 with MEND. Some people did already make additional contributions, and I know Robin was greatly appreciative of that, and so was I, even though I have nothing to do with MEND. And but I think I am appreciative of it because I appreciate what they've done, both within our community with the food pantries right here in Maple South Orange, and also within the county. As I've gotten older, I feel my volunteer time and my contribution dollars need to be closer to home. So I don't give money to my high school or my college anymore. They don't need it. But I think it's important to take care of your own community, and that's what Robin does with MEND, and what Kate did in her time here as well. And that's why I think it's remarkably important for all of us who live here in this area to support something like this, because it's mightily necessary right now. Especially, I think, as we head into winter, it's going to be I think it's going to be a difficult winter for folks, and so it's important that we all sort of do a couple of things. We look out for one another. We look out for other people who are in need, and also it's important that what keeps us human. And I say this at a lot of my events. What keeps us human is that we are aware of the needs that other people have, but to retain our humanity, we still pursue our interests and our passions as well too, appropriately, and that's what this is kind of all about tonight. So I agree. Look, Robin, you're getting all these great.
I know.
You got a lot of plans in there.
Thank you, guys. I did want to say two things. One, we do have 2 pantries that are doing food drives in the near future. So if anyone is local and is interested in donating to the food drives, Our Lady of Sorrows in South Orange is hosting a drive-through food drive this Saturday. And it's from 10 to 1 on Prospect Street. I can send an email if anyone wants more info about it. And then Interfaith Food Pantry of the Oranges is actually doing a frozen turkey drive and pre-packed bags the following weekend. So we're kind of just putting that out there. We do get a fair amount of calls about people that want to do food drives. It's a little tricky for us. We're partnering with some schools, but we're trying to send people right to the pantries that are closest in their community if they want to pack some bags and do some more hands-on work. So just want to give a shout out for those couple pantries in the area.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you, Robin. Thanks for having me be a part of this thing for you all too. So
thanks for putting up with my very unrefined reviews.
What most important thing is if you know you like something or don't like it, or if you're not sure. That's what matters most. You don't hear me using lots of flowery words here tonight. So thank you. I'm gonna take you off screen and wrap this thing up. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, everyone who participated and donated. We really do appreciate it, and it's very much needed.
Thanks, Robin. Okay, so I just want to answer a few last questions and just kind of wrap this thing up. And let's see. First, thank you all for participating. Again, thank you, Village Wine Shop. You guys have been fantastic. Thank you, Maplewood Wheelhouse. You guys really know your stuff and really bring good product to the community. Thank you, my dear friend Sheila. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Kate Cahill. Thank you, all the people who do good things for our community, because what differentiates a town from a community is the people and what they do to kind of maintain it and keep everybody moving in the right direction. So I think that's great. I've been asked more than once about where to get the wine. You will be able to place an order through Village Wine Shop. I will. They haven't come up with what the retail price is going to be for the wine yet, but I think if you call by kind of midday tomorrow, you'll be able to place an order over the next few days. I'd say by Monday the latest, and you can get some of these wines as well. Please, if you can, follow me on social media, because then you'll know about you'll know more about what's happening here. You'll also know that I'm going to have a new website up and live soon, and I'm going to start going back to this old school email marketing, because one of the things I've seen is that social media does not reach everybody, so people aren't always aware about when an event is going to happen, even though I try to over publicize them as best as I possibly can. It doesn't always work. So stay tuned for that, because in December I'm going to start a monthly wine club. I still want to keep doing these virtual tastings every month, but I'm going to start a monthly wine club through Village Wine Shop starting in December, and it'll be kind of a subscription thing, and probably like 3 wines a month, and it'll be an addition on top of these community tastings as well. So I promise I'll keep you in wine, and in wine that you just can't find anywhere else, and that I think is good and well made. And one of the things I love about the wine industry too is that it's very social. So you meet a lot of people in the business, and to me, the most ideal combination is when I can bring people good wine that's actually made by good people too. It's a real win-win to me. So thank you again for being here. Be well, take care of one another, look out for one another, and see you around campus. Bye.